3 months ago, I was that guy, spending $7 a day on coffee, waiting in line at Starbucks before they even opened, and having that "don't talk to me until I've had my coffee" or "I can't function until I've had my coffee" attitude. Sound familiar? But then I noticed something strange. Every time I didn't have my morning coffee, I felt drained. I had no energy, I was getting splitting headaches, and I just couldn't function. That's when I realized I wasn't drinking coffee for more energy, I was drinking coffee to feel normal. And I've spent some time diving deep into the history and science behind coffee, and I realized something shocking. Coffee is one of the most successful social engineering experiments in human history. And in this video, I'm going to show you why slave owners use coffee to maximize production, why the modern workplace has been built around coffee addiction, the scary truth about what coffee actually does to your energy, and why billion-dollar companies want you hooked on overpriced beans. Now, before the coffee addicts and coffee lovers attack me in the comments, I'm not saying coffee's evil. I'm just merely saying that we've been sold a lie about what coffee does to our minds and our bodies. So here's a history about coffee that they don't tell you. The Romans and Greeks rejected coffee, naming it a beverage of the infidels. And coffee only became popular during the Industrial Revolution. Factory owners discovered that they could get more work out of their employees if they gave them coffee breaks. Never before did people have breaks. All of a sudden, we're adding a coffee break because, hey, look, we can get more productivity. And the first coffee breaks were instituted by slave owners so they could maximize productivity of their slaves. So if we dive deeper into the history, first we see that in the Civil War, soldiers were given rations of coffee so they could stay alert and awake. Now, I've never been in the military. I can't imagine what these guys go through, but the fact that the government is giving them a drug, that's what caffeine is, that's what coffee is, a drug, so that way they can function, that raises some red flags for you. And then in the early 1900s, companies started providing coffee in the workplace for free. Then later, in the 50s, coffee breaks were mandatory in some union contracts. The key point here is that coffee has always been about maximizing productivity, not about enjoyment. It's something that, yes, gives you a temporary high, and yes, I'm gonna call getting high on caffeine what it is, getting high on a drug, because you're taking something outside of yourself, putting it into yourself, in hopes of changing your internal state. Now, let's get into the modern coffee trap. So just like alcohol is completely based around peer pressure and needing to fit in, coffee is very similar, right? If you're watching this video, if you know me, I haven't drank in over a year. And I have zero urge to because I realized what a scam it was and what it was doing to my sleep. This is the modern coffee trap. We have the people who identify coffee as their personality. You see the people with a shirt on that says like, "Don't talk to me before coffee," or like, "Battery low, I need more coffee." So people have adopted this drug as their identity. And if you think about it, it really is a drug. And so nowhere else is rampant addiction just completely normalized other than alcohol. You probably already know alcohol is a scam. If you don't, I invite you to track your sleep and see how bad your sleep is on the nights, even if you only have 1 or 2 beers. That'll be enough for you, at least it was for me, to actually quit coffee fully. So coffee's become this personality trait. Don't talk to me before I have my coffee. I'm gonna buy this $5,000 espresso machine. I'm gonna use an AeroPress. I'm gonna hand grind my own beans so that way I can get the best possible quality. I'm gonna measure the water. I'm gonna weigh it. I'm gonna use the exact temperature. All this stuff that like the connoisseurs do so that way they can make the best cup of coffee. It's really just a ritual that's based in their addiction and their need for coffee. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, "I've been drinking coffee since I can remember," I challenge you to go tomorrow without having your cup of coffee and notice how you feel. I'm not saying it's gonna be good because there will be withdrawal symptoms. The urge for coffee in the morning is withdrawal symptoms because you don't have the caffeine that you feel you need or that your body is used to. Now, the coffee culture in the workplace is quite interesting as well. So there's coffee runs with the employees, there's meetings over coffee. This has essentially replaced the water cooler talk is like, let's have a coffee meeting. There's coffee stations in every office and people have coffee chat interviews. So these are all just things that completely normalize. Instead of realizing, hey, maybe we should sleep more, it's like, what can we do to pry our eyes open, put toothpicks up in there, so that way we can keep our eyes open and we can actually get work done? Really? The answer probably is you need more sleep. Now, let's go into the social pressure. Just like drinking alcohol, if you go to a bar or to a party and you don't drink, you're the weird one. People say, "Why don't you drink?" And, maybe 75 hard is an excuse that's more passable now. Some people are starting to wake up. More and more of my friends, completely uninterested in alcohol. But that's not the norm. Now, coffee is very similar. The other day, I met a real estate guy at a coffee shop and I didn't have coffee. And he was so confused. Like, he offered me one multiple times and asked, why don't you drink coffee? Well, the reason was I knew that 2 cups was my limit. After that, it just hurts my stomach and it's not fun and not comfortable. But they were so shocked and confused, like, why won't you partake in this drug with us? And so they thought something was wrong with me because I wasn't enjoying a cup of coffee. And here I am in the coffee region in Colombia. Now, let's get into the actual science behind coffee. So people think that coffee gives an energy, but it doesn't. Really what it does is it blocks tiredness. There's something called adenosine, which is your natural tiredness signal. This is something that you have that tells you when it's time to sleep. This is something that is natural. It's part of your body, similar to your circadian rhythm. So what coffee does is it prevents you from feeling the tiredness. You're just putting something over the top of the rotten fruit that's underneath, which is your tiredness. So imagine if there's rotten fruit on the ground and you wanted to clean the place and make it look better. Would you just throw a rug over the top, or would you clean up first? It's really up to you, but I think the obvious answer is take care of the root problem. As you consume coffee, especially on a daily basis, you start building this energy debt. You feel like you need coffee in order to actually function. Maybe when you first had your first cup of coffee, if your scale of energy was 1 to 10, maybe it took you up to an 11 or a 12. And that's what started your habit. Wow, I can get so much more done. But then after you've had coffee for a week, you built a habit, you're now addicted, and now you wake up in the morning and your energy is maybe over at a 7 or an 8 out of 10, and you need that coffee to get up to your 9 and 10. So ultimately, a crash is going to be inevitable. We've all had that feeling where it's afternoon, you know you're not supposed to drink coffee afternoon, but oh my gosh, I have a deadline. I need to record this video. I need my coffee. I've been there. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just merely pointing to and showing you and sharing my experience. I've actually only been off coffee for 7 days now, and I can already see the massive improvements in my energy. Now, let's talk about withdrawal. Just like you'd get withdrawal if you were a heroin addict, you get withdrawal from caffeine. These headaches, the fatigue, being irritable, having brain fog, these are normal. This is withdrawal symptoms because your body doesn't have the drug that it is dependent on. And to make matters even worse, coffee actually lowers your energy overall and makes it so you get less sleep. So coffee has a 6-hour half-life. What that means is, say you have 1 cup of coffee, 100 milligrams in your body at 6 in the morning. 6 hours later, it's noon, you still have 50 milligrams of coffee in your body. Now, 6 hours later, at 6 p.m., you still have 25 milligrams of coffee in your body. And then at midnight, you still have 12.5 milligrams. So that's just 1 cup of coffee. Assuming you had it at 6 in the morning, you still have quite a bit of caffeine in your system when you're trying to go to sleep. And remember, coffee blocks your tiredness. It blocks that adenosine. So your body, it feels tired, it feels fatigued, but you're just covering it up. You're just papering over it. And the worst part about all of this is it creates this vicious cycle where once you're on coffee, it's incredibly hard to quit because you feel so bad without it. You feel like, how can I go 7 days or 14 days without coffee? There's no way. I've got stuff to do. And so it evolved into this vicious cycle, this trap where you need coffee to survive, to perform. That coffee is actually making you more tired and depleting your energy. So then you need more coffee to cover it up. And that's why you see people increase from first they had 1 cup of coffee, then they have 2, then they're having 3. Some people drink a pot of coffee every single day. That's mind-blowing to me. All right, so let's get into the business and the industry side of coffee. So coffee is a $465 billion industry globally. They use marketing tactics where they normalize the addiction and treat it like a ritual. They use premium pricing and scarcity models about how they have limited edition beans or these are single origin from a certain place. And then even some companies have these subscription traps where they know that they have a drug, so they want to get you hooked and then get you on a weekly or a monthly subscription. Now let's get into the pricing psychology. So somehow a $7 cup of coffee has been normalized, right? Just do the math. $7, 7 days, $49 every single week. If you just call it 50 to make it easier and do 50 times 50 weeks, we're looking at $2,500 per year in coffee spend. People have this, it's just coffee mentality, completely dismissing that it's a drug and that they're dependent on it and that they don't feel they can function without it. Most people don't even know how much they spend on coffee per month. There's all these premium upgrades where it's just 50 cents more to add another shot of espresso or whatever the case is. So coffee is also hurting your pocketbook. Now, obviously, if you're a business owner and you actually get more done with the coffee, then you can probably easily justify that. But if you're just working like a normal job, or if you don't have a lot of money, I encourage you to write down or to note every time you spend money on coffee and add it up and see how much are you spending each month. The results are going to shock you. And last, let's just get into the marketing psychology that Starbucks uses. So first, they have these spaces designed as your third space, right? This is the place you go to do work. You go to access the internet, whatever the case is. They also have artificial scents, which this is crazy. This is like mind control type stuff. So when you smell the smell of entering into the store, you then trigger, it's called an NLP anchor. You then trigger the excitement for, oh my gosh, I'm about to get my fix. Now, they also have reward programs that get you to be loyal to their store and keep coming back. Think of it like airline miles or credit card points. You know they wouldn't offer them to you if they weren't getting something out of it. So that's something to think about. Last is the sizes, especially in America, are ridiculous. They've got a tall, a grande, and a venti. I was telling my wife the other day that medium-sized coffee is half a liter, 16 ounces, and her mind was blown. Here in Colombia, in the coffee region, a cup of coffee is an espresso shot, or an Americano is like 5 or 6 ounces. So Americans drinking that $7 cup of coffee, they're really having like 4 coffees in one, but it's just in one cup, so it doesn't feel like it. It would be the same as you thinking you just had one drink before you're going out to drive, but that drink was 4 shots of tequila that you just had in your cup. So, it's only 4 ounces. It's just one cup. It's just one drink, but really it's 4. So this is the hidden way that you're drinking and consuming so much more caffeine than you thought you were, and leading you to this cycle of, oh my gosh, I need it, and every time I need just a little bit more to get more of that high. Okay, now I want to just share with you my personal experience on quitting coffee, because it wasn't easy, but I'm already a week in and I feel incredible. So the first thing that I did, and this started 2 weeks ago, was to get off of coffee and switch to black tea. So black tea has about half the caffeine content that coffee does. So instead of having 100 milligrams right away in the morning, I was down to 50. So obviously it's just decreasing how much is in my system for when I go to bed. And also this is a way to fight the withdrawal symptoms. So I was doing about 1 cup of black tea each morning. And then I switched over to green tea after a week. And then I just switched over to ginger tea. So I've been able to completely eliminate coffee. And another thing that you can try is find yourself some 100% cacao, hot chocolate, make that. You can still have your ritual of making it, of stirring it, of doing all the things that you like. Your body is probably just programmed to feel this like, oh, I want that hot drink in the morning. So this has been my journey on how I've been able to quit. And so now I'm just having a warm ginger tea, maybe a hot chocolate in the morning, but I don't even feel the need for coffee. And just before I quit fully coffee, the last day I had already been off coffee for 3 days, I decided, okay, I'm gonna have one last hurrah cup. Felt tired in the morning. We were walking to a local farm here to get coffee that they grew on the farm, and we had our cups. My wife and I split a Chemex, and I drank mine, and it just wasn't that much, and it was so good. It was absolutely amazing. I was bummed that I ran out so fast. My wife let me have the rest of her coffee, and then on the way out, I took a to-go cup because I was like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well go hard. This is addiction. This is hard to admit because I don't like saying that a substance has power over me, but wow, just that experience with coffee was proof to me how much I craved it, how much I wanted it so bad. And when I got it, just like, oh, life is better, God is good, all these things. So now that I'm in my first full week of quitting coffee, I've already noticed that I wake up earlier and I have more energy. So instead of, hitting the snooze button or rolling over or like just delaying getting out of bed because I feel tired, now I just pop out of bed and I'm good to go. I feel like I'm not a slave anymore to coffee. I feel like I can get stuff done. I can record this video. To be honest, I was trying to record this video like a week ago and I wasn't able to do it because I couldn't function. But now that that's out of the way, I have more energy and I feel more in control of myself. I'm getting better sleep already. And I just can't believe that I've been addicted to this substance for 13 years without ever thinking about what it's like to not be on it. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper into the addiction side of things because addiction is something that's been really challenging for me throughout my life. And I'll give you an example of one time, I think I was staying at an Airbnb, brought my own beans, they had a coffee maker, but there was no grinder. So I didn't have a way to access the coffee. I ended up putting the beans in a plastic Ziploc bag and banging on them with a hammer to try to crunch them up to make them ground or small enough. I then put that in the filter, into the coffee machine. What came out was just this like clear, really weak coffee. It was so disappointing. So I drank that, and like the taste was not that great either. And then promptly went out to a coffee shop and bought a $7 coffee to get my fix. So I was an absolute slave to this. And if you're somebody who's been drinking coffee for a long time, you probably are as well. First off, I want to say it's okay. We've been sold a lie. Now that you've seen this video, you can make a decision if you want to quit or not. And what I recommend doing, maybe just try for a month, maybe 30 full days. Find a time when you don't have a massive deadline or a ton of work to get done, and be okay with being a little bit more tired. Be okay with feeling fully those withdrawal symptoms and those feelings. And then you'll notice after about day 7, your energy is just skyrocketing. Like, I have so much more energy and I feel better overall. And so I'm probably going to get to a point where I start looking at other coffee addicts with a little bit of disdain or like disapproval. And obviously that's not like how I want to look at somebody, but when you see an addict doing addict behaviors, especially if you used to be one, it's something that really helps you see and step outside of yourself and see like, man, what that guy's doing is pathetic. But that was what I was doing for the past 13 years. That's been my journey so far. I'm going to do another update here when I'm 30 days clean, and then probably another one after 90 days to just prove and show you that you really don't need this substance and your life's actually going to be better without it. Now, the last key points that I want to talk about here is that coffee isn't something that humans have really ever consumed, or like we never ate coffee beans. We never like pursued this plant until it was industrialized and created as its business. Coffee dependence in general, being dependent on having something to feel like yourself, is not normal at all. The whole coffee industry profits from the addiction, right? There's the marketing there. If you're a business owner, I mean, yeah, if you can sell a product that is so good that people never want to give up, right? It's a similar example to cigarettes, right? That's a massive business. They get people hooked on the nicotine and then people just can't leave. That's what the coffee industry is doing to you. The withdrawal symptoms alone prove that it's a drug, right? When else do you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to have this thing in order to feel normal? It's just not okay. In my opinion, it's not normal. And most people never experience their baseline energy or really their true personality because they're always putting some kind of substance over the top. You got the coffee in the morning, then in the midday, you're either having another coffee or you're having sugar to amp you up. And then at night, it's like, oh, let me get a beer. Let me have a drink. Let me smoke a blunt. Whatever it is. All these things are just covering up your true, pure, natural state. Imagine thinking that God didn't make you perfect and you needed to inject or ingest foreign things into your body just to feel okay. So I make this video just to share what my experience has been so far, and then also just to share that coffee really is a trap. It's designed to get you stuck into it. And maybe that wasn't the intention initially, but that's where we're at now. And look, I get it. Quitting coffee seems impossible. It sounds unnecessary. It sounds even crazy. But here's something that I want you to consider. What if drinking coffee isn't giving you more energy? It's just returning the energy that it's already taken away from you. And what if your productivity doesn't come from coffee, but it comes from the natural state, your natural state, that coffee has been suppressing? And what if you're spending thousands of dollars every year just to feel normal? I challenge you to try 30 days without coffee, not to prove me right, but to prove that you are in control and that coffee isn't controlling you. So if you're ready to take the 30-day no coffee challenge, post in the comments. I want to see how many people are ready to be unplugged from the matrix. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.